I'm going to bring up a book I can't stop talking about on this podcast. I should probably just call this the Wonderworks podcast at this point. But anyway, the book, it's Wonderworks by Angus Fletcher. And there are 2 chapters in the book that highlight the relationship between comedy and horror in our brains. Okay, very interesting. Comedy and horror share a common origin, right? That's really kind of neat. So comedy and horror, there's a common origin, but then there's a fork in the road that either makes us, freak out or, break into fits of helpless giggles. So chapter 6 of Wonderworks, Fletcher discusses how paranoia arises in our brains. Our brains are constantly, subconsciously, outside of our awareness, assessing our environment for threats, right? Sensory information is coming in, and our amygdala, that's a part of our brain, in concert with other areas of our brain, is checking to see if any of that incoming sensory information could warn us about any danger in the area. So paranoia occurs when we pick up on something that seems out of place in a familiar environment, right? When you notice something strange or odd in an otherwise familiar setting, you start to ask questions about it, right? You get curious. You might be a little paranoid about, why that strange thing is happening if you can't figure it out and place it exactly. So that paranoia process, that's the groundwork for both horror and comedy. A sense of paranoia and curiosity about something odd and out of place. Okay, so that's important. Then in chapter 12 of Wonderworks, Fletcher goes on to point out that funny has a double meaning. We can have a funny feeling that makes us chuckle, or we can have a funny feeling that raises the hair on the back of our neck, and it makes us a little bit nervous, right? So there's that dual meaning to funny. So our amygdala subconsciously realized something odd was going on around us, and that woke up the conscious part of our brain, the frontal cortex, and our frontal cortex then investigates further and tries to answer the question, is this potentially dangerous, definitely dangerous, or not dangerous at all? We don't have to worry about this. And the more uncertain we are, the longer nervous tension builds inside us, right? We feel this ever escalating suspense and unease. Something spooky is just around the corner, but we're not sure, when is it coming? When is it going to get us, right? If the danger is clear and obvious, in movies, we call that a jump scare, right? It's like, what? What was that? Something scary, right? If our brain decides that it isn't dangerous at all, we laugh, right? Laughter helps us relax. It reverses the ramp-up process of the fight or flight response that was building when we thought something dangerous might be after us. Like when our amygdala is concerned about something, it sets in motion this series of events to trigger the release of the stress hormone cortisol, as well as epinephrine, again, to prepare us for quick action in response to a threat. You like my quick action motion? But then laughing, that then drops down cortisol levels back to normal. It releases endorphins, feel-good chemicals in our brain. Laughter calms you back down after you got yourself all worked up about something that turned out to not be scary. And a lot of this maybe sounds familiar to you if you've heard of benign violation theory. So benign violation theory, this is a theory about what makes things funny. The idea is that if you see something that violates your existing worldview, your perception of how things should be, and the violation is simultaneously recognized as not threatening to you, then you'll laugh. It both appears as a threat and is recognized as ultimately not a threat at pretty much the same time. In some ways, a joke is a threat immediately rendered impotent. I think that's a great starting point for understanding laughter. It helps you to understand why it is so important as a comedian to be able to set the audience at ease. You have to help the audience relax enough that they trust you, right? and then you can slightly betray that trust. Because in order to get laughs, you're also going to have to make the audience a little uncomfortable, right? A little paranoid and a little uneasy from time to time. That's step one of the process for both horror and comedy, right? So the audience, they have to trust that when you make them uneasy and build tension, you're going to flip the switch and let them laugh and relax, right? That's what happens with a punchline. I don't know, I think this might all have something to do with why some people find clowns creepy, right? Like they don't trust that weirdo, that he's just acting like a goofy doofus for funsies, right? They look at him and they see a total freak of a man who actually wants to dress and behave that way, like for real. Like that's the essence of who he is, and that's freaky. That's a freaky clown man. Don't go near the clown man, kids. Like that's how some people see clowns, right? That's the ultimate question when you agree to go to a comedy show. Do you trust the clown, right?